And we're live. Welcome back for another episode on the Windsor Wednesday show. I'm so excited to announce our today's guests. And at the top right is Arisha Ahmed. Arisha is a third-year Odette School of Business student who is currently involved with the John Simpson Student Investment Fund as the CEO. She also is a student ambassador at the University of Windsor and many other roles on campus, especially with the Odette Commerce Society. So Arisha, great to have you on the show today. Down below, the bottom left, we have Jonathan Graniero. Jonathan is a third-year Human Kinetics student and co-president of the Human Kinetics Society. Thanks for joining us, Jonathan. And we have Zoe Neale. Zoe Neale is a staff member at the University of Windsor, who is the Residence Life Coordinator. She didn't graduate from the University of Windsor, but she chose Windsor as her hometown and the place to help at the University of Windsor. So we appreciate your support and joining the team here. All right, so let's get started. Jonathan, you're up first on the questions list. I have to ask, how have you really grown for being a Lancer so far? Now you're in your third year.
Yeah, well, a big part of that, I think, is all the stuff that comes from outside the classroom. Because when you're in the classroom, you go to learn, you meet all these people, these great people that are in your program, but you don't really get to know them, right? You get to meet them, but you don't get to know them. And I think that's a big part of university, is the social aspect, and a big reason why it's been really hard for a lot of students not being able to go to campus, because we're missing that aspect of socializing with people. And with all the abundance of extracurriculars that UWindsor has to offer, it really gives you a great opportunity to meet all these different people, learn how to interact with others, and build your own personal life skills that will shoot you forward in your career. And I think that with all the experiences that I've been lucky enough to have with extracurriculars so far in my 2.5 years at the school, I think that's really helped me view a lot of things differently and shape how I want to move forward, my image to other people, and how I want to live my life as a Windsor student, a Windsor alumni in the future, and how I'm going to move forward in my own career one day. And like I said, I think the extracurricular side of the schooling is a big part of that. And it definitely has had a really big impact on me, having a variety of experiences, getting to know others, being able to see how a diverse working environment, or whether it be that club or that sports team, whatever you do, you get to interact with so many different people, and they rub off on you, right? You pick up some things that help you along the way, and they've really helped me shape myself and be the person that I want to be moving forward.
That's great, Jonathan. And if you could, I guess, group up some of this network that you've built, where would you say you've built majority of your connections at the University of Windsor?
Well, a lot of it has actually been through the HK Society, starting in first year when I was able to join as a first year rep. And you get to talk to all your profs before you do your announcements in class, and then they get to start to know you by name, which is super nice, right? You get to you can approach them on some of them on a first name basis, right? And you just really get to build these stronger connections with these people. And moving through HK Society, now being the co-president of it, right? I talk to some of my professors on a weekly basis, and it's really nice to be able to, if I have a question about advancing my career, they can just be like, "Oh, I know someone. I'll get you in touch right away." And I think that's been a really big help, is the HK Society, for sure.
I'm glad. And Jonathan, while we're on the topic of your current role as co-president, why specifically did you seek out this role?
Well, when I came in first year, the announcement was made to me from the president at the time. First year elections are coming up in a couple weeks. You have to do a speech in front of the class. I'm like, oh my God, I want to be part of this group. Like, I didn't know what they were all about yet, but I had a feeling that I knew I wanted to be there. And once I was in there in first year, I'm like, I definitely want to stay and I want to get to the top. I told my current co-president right now, Tiana Kavanaugh, I told her, I'm like, I'm going to the top one day. And so working through in first year, giving it my all. Second year being a year rep executive, so I was in charge of a smaller group of people. And then seeing how that went, I was like, oh, I can totally do this. And so I took that step forward, ran for co-president, and yeah, here we are. And I think, to answer your question, it's been my goal from the start.
Well, you've definitely been doing a rock star job in your role, and we've had the opportunity to work together back and forth. So I'm glad you're in the position, Jonathan, and thanks for sharing those insights.
Yeah, thanks so much.
So going down to Zoe, graduating from a different school, not from the Windsor area, what made you decide to work at the University of Windsor?
Yeah, so I did go to a different institution to do my undergrad here. I'd never actually even been to Windsor before, but going kind of when I was applying to the job and just looking to do this role professionally, I wanted to find a place where I felt like that sense of community and belonging as I did at my previous institution. So when I came to Windsor to interview, I was a bit nervous because I was like, I've never been here before. But I think the thing that I really liked actually was the campus and that it was a smaller campus. I thought I came from like a big institution. So I was like, oh, hopefully that'll help me kind of build that sense of community, be able to meet people. And then, yeah, so I interviewed for the role and really liked meeting the department. I felt kind of really at home already. I really appreciated like my now department head and supervisor. They wanted to get to know me for the role, but they also wanted to get to know me as a person and see like what I like what I'm interested in, so that they know that I would fit well into the city, especially because I'd be coming from near Toronto, didn't know anybody. So overall, it was like a really great experience. We did the interview, they like showed me around residence. We even went to Green Bean after and we just like chatted just about like interests. And so I really appreciated that kind of holistic approach that they had. And so kind of based on that, I thought, okay, if I were to get this role, I think I would be able to find that sense of community and belonging at the university. And I'm happy to say 3 years later that I do feel very much at home here and really enjoy working here.
That's amazing. And what has really brought joy to you working with those students and residents?
I really enjoy working with students, whether it's students or student leaders, because I love to see kind of the growth that starts from like the beginning of the year to the end. With our student staff, I love seeing them come into the role fresh, not really knowing things, and kind of how they adapt and build those skills and how they feel really confident towards the end of the year. Similarly with students, I get to see them less than my student staff, but it's always great to see first years come in and like get adjusted to the community and to the university and just see them grow throughout the years. And we have some students who've been in residence for their entire undergrad, so it's nice to build relationships with them and get to know them and be a part of their university journey as well.
Fantastic. Well, I appreciate you sharing that, Zoe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Going up top in the top right, Arisha, what do you really enjoy about being a UWindsor student ambassador?
Absolutely. So I'll give you a quick overview. So as student ambassadors, we're the bridge between prospective students and the university. So we're the first face they see when they're coming to open houses, doing campus tours. We actually did a couple in person too, so that was cool this past fall. And all the events that we usually go into high schools as well. So what I enjoyed most is being able to share my experience. When you look at different programs for university, I mean, back when we were in high school, you might remember like schools seemed similar, programs seemed similar. You had, professors who had shared their experiences, but you really never were able to differentiate between what's this school going to bring me compared to this. So as student ambassadors, we're able to share our experiences. So I'm able to talk about the opportunities that I've had, the connections that I've made, the extracurricular that I've been a part of. And that's what students like to hear, because once again, you can read through those like yearly pamphlets and read about programs and read about all that. But when you get to talk to different students, I know I talk about business for hours, but you also have students in different programs, international students, grad students, who can share their experiences. And so that's what I think that I've been enjoying the most, because the university has provided me with so much opportunity. And once again, extracurriculars are the big part. I know Jonathan touched upon that too, but that's what really has improved my experience, where it's not just being a student in the academics, but you learn so much more, you meet so many more people, you build connections, but also friendships through those.
And what's been some really reoccurring questions that you usually get asked as a student ambassador?
Yeah, so it's usually about, once again, like within business program, it's always about, oh, what do you enjoy most about the school? And so it sounds pretty general, but it always segues into the extracurricular part of it, because you have these opportunities, like we have accounting association, finance association, marketing. So it's based on whatever your interests are. And we also have Commerce Society, which is like a lot of students come from high school. It's like the student body, as well as you've got the fund, which is real life practical experience. So touching upon those is always like, there's always building questions upon that where they're like, oh yeah, so how can I transfer my interest from this into an extracurricular? So you can kind of come up with conversations about that.
For sure. And I think that being that you have many roles at ODET, it gives you leverage and the ability to really speak about your experiences. So I think that's great. And you definitely have a whole bundle of experiences you've made at the ODET School of Business. So thanks for sharing that, Arisha. So going on back to Jonathan, I want to talk about some exciting things on the horizon with a Human Kinetics Society. What do you have in store? What exciting events can you share with those watching today?
Well, one thing that isn't really considered an event, but that we're very excited about is we have one of our first year representatives, Emily Stanley. She created a new Instagram account focused on mental health and mental health awareness for students. And we're very excited to see that take off. And basically what she's doing is just posting themed reminders for the month and doing different posts about mental health, keeping up your mental health, and some that aren't more traditional, such as like recipes, like cooking a recipe. Everybody likes a good meal every now and then. So that's something she's really excited about, and we're really excited that she started that up last month. As for events, we are hoping to do a couple fundraisers throughout the next couple months. This month, Black History Month. And so as part of that, there's a new Human Kinetics entrance scholarship coming out, the Voices of Excellence Scholarship, that can be given to a student coming from a minority background. And so we are trying to have a fundraiser to help raise money for that so that it can be sustainable for the next 25 or more years. And we're going to be doing a fundraiser for that. We're going to be showcasing some Black-owned businesses in the Windsor-Essex area on our Instagram account as part of the month as well. And then going towards the end of February and early March, we're hoping to have a fundraiser with Heart and Stroke in order to honor a former HK student that unfortunately passed away, but that her parents are still very glad that we're carrying on the tradition of honoring her name. And we're hoping to do that through an online trivia night. And that would be a really great thing that we're hoping to open up to all of campus so that we can show the family the support of the whole Windsor community, not just the HK community. And then the last major thing that we have going on is we put in a Relay for Life team so that we can also show our support for that group on at Windsor. And we're really excited about that as well. We get a chance to do all these different fundraisers for a lot of very important groups.
Well, you have a busy agenda ahead of you, Jonathan, and some great initiatives that are happening, especially during Black History Month. Lots of exciting things that you're doing to promote the campaign. So I appreciate that, Jonathan, and those that are in HK Society or from other faculties, definitely check out all the great news Jonathan just shared. So back to Zoe, switching over, I want to talk about residents specifically in your role. What is residents really doing to keep students connected while also keeping them safe at the University of Windsor?
Yeah, so it's definitely been something interesting to navigate. Typically in residence, you have your easy kind of connection points, whether you're like walking down the halls, you get to go and eat with people or go to various events. So obviously a lot of that for safety reasons is no longer possible. So we really had to reframe kind of how we create connection and engagement. So I got to hand it to our student staff, our resident assistants, community assistants. They do a lot of that community building and engagement piece. I'm really proud of them because it's all been now virtual. So we've got our RAs who connect monthly with each of their students just to check in and see how they're doing overall, whether school or academics, well-being, just because of the added pressure of everything going on. It's really nice to have that connection piece with someone and connect them with resources, especially as a lot of students don't get to kind of engage with the campus as much. And then we have a lot of different programming going on. Every Friday we do TGI Fridays. So it's a fun event, trivia nights and different things like that, just for fun. And this year this semester actually, we are trying something new. So each of our RAs has picked like an area of interest and they've created somewhat of like a club. So whether you're into like fantasy sports or anime or reading, things like that, we've crafted these kind of clubs around that so that students can engage with something that they're interested in. And so I think that's been going well. So the RAs have been able to meet different students from the building and engage around like a niche interest that they all have. So yeah, lots going on, and just to provide more and more opportunities for students to connect with each other and to see people.
For sure. And I can imagine that as being a student in residence and being away from home, especially during COVID-19, is not easy. And I could imagine, Zoe, that you've learned a lot in your role going from pre-pandemic to now, and how the residence life has really, really changed. Could you share some of those insights, some things that you've been able to learn from this experience?
Oh, where to start, really? Yeah, I mean, I think it's been good. Just we've had to learn kind of how to adapt to different and ever-changing kind of policies and procedures. Kind of that's completely changed, like my supervision style, how I manage my staff, because that looks a lot different now, because obviously I don't see them as much. It's changed kind of how our department operates. And so, yeah, it's been like a complete overhaul of things, to say the least. And just, yeah, we've had to be more creative. We looked to resources. We've connected with folks from other institutions just to see, like, what are you doing? So in a certain way, like, it's connected us with a lot more people, like, from other schools, and kind of generated some new ideas of things we didn't really think about before. Because I think sometimes you can get caught in what you usually do, what's kind of typical year to year. Was this has given us the opportunity to kind of look at everything we do, kind of what's purposeful, how can we engage with students more. And so, yeah, it's been interesting to see to how virtual engagement, sometimes that's allowed more people to participate because they maybe don't feel as pressured because they can have their cameras off but still engage with whatever's going on. So yeah, it's been a good learning experience, and we've learned some things that I think we'd actually like to take into the future on how we do engagement with students and residents as a whole.
For sure. And it's great that you're able to utilize other universities, lean on them for their advice, see what they're doing and how they're really dealing with this unprecedented situation. So Zoe, great insights. Thanks so much for sharing that. And going to our last question for today, going to Arisha. I want to talk about specifically your role at the John Simpson Odette Student Investment Fund. If students that are watching, there's a great huge room at the Odette School of Business called the Financial Markets Lab, where students are able to go in there and trade. So how have students, and specifically at the investment fund, really been able to still get into that room, but virtually, Arisha?
Yeah, absolutely. So since the beginning of working from home, we've been continuing our operations just in an online capacity. So we've continued on like our weekly meetings as well as socials, all through Zoom for the most part, and we keep up constant communication through other networks. But having made those strong and professional relationships as well as friendships in the lab has been really helpful, because now we're able to motivate each other and depend on each other, because it's been a bit of a struggle, moving to working at home, especially for like such a long period of time. And so, if anything, it's brought us closer together because there's more dependency, there's more teamwork happening. You're able to, hop on calls whenever you want, work through projects, learn from each other. So that's been pretty great. And then, and as for the lab, so to be honest, I joined the fund after, like, during the summer. So I've never actually been in the lab capacity, but at the end of the day, the lab was just a location and a tool that we used. But it's like the members of the fund that made up the community, and everything that happened is still happening just because the lab was, yeah, like at the end of the day, it was a great tool. We were always in there. Bloomberg terminals were great, but we've had access to that all online, as well as the members are all still there. So it's been a bit of a transition, but if anything, we're growing and expanding the brand much more than we were in the lab.
For sure. And if we can, real quick, just touch on your role at the investment fund. What specifically does your portfolio involve?
Yeah, so I've been in my role since January, so about a month now. And before that, I was the COO, so I was supposed to focusing on more of the operational based things. And then once again, growing our brand. We launched our website, our Instagram page. We're reaching out to more guest speakers, getting a more professional background on LinkedIn. But as for now, as for our portfolio, I think we just hit $210,000 in assets that we manage throughout 4 main sectors. So we've got consumer staples, energy industrials, tech and healthcare, as well as financials. And we have a diversified portfolio through that. So we invest in like stock value and growth-based securities. And just a simplified version, like we have an investment process. So we'll follow that and do pitches, look at different industries, look at different companies, competition. And so that's kind of what we're continuing now too.
Well, very exciting experience for any students that are interested in business. What have you learned from this, from being involved with the investment fund, that maybe a student coming in could learn?
Yeah, so there's just so much you can learn in the classroom, because that's more theoretical, more learning the math behind it, or learning the concepts that make up these theories. But on the fund, it's real life experience. You're actually trading into these. You have the assets, you have the money. It's not just a stimulation. And so yeah, it's basically a transition from learning what you learned and taking the knowledge that you learned in the classroom and applying it to the actual market. A lot of students won't get that experience until they graduate, or years down the road. Will you ever have an opportunity to manage $200,000 in assets? And so that's an opportunity that you can get as a 20-year-old now, being on the fund. And then you also really get to grow your professional network, because we'll have guest speakers come in every 2 weeks, a month or so, and they're from these great institutes in such great positions that you can not only have them as like a mentor, kind of guide you through it, but they're going to be a huge asset when it comes to post-grad recruitment and such. And you also get a good idea of what you want to go into, because everyone knows somewhere in finance, hopefully. But from these guest speakers, you learn more about each single sector. And that has personally really helped me. In the last couple of months, I've been able to kind of choose where I want to go post-grad.
Fantastic. And like you mentioned, definitely great initiative happening at the Odette School of Business that business students can get involved with. Zoe talked a lot about what Residence is doing to engage with those students, and Jonathan has exciting insights and events planned for the HK Society. But definitely check out all of those portfolios. And to the guests that joined us today on the show, I really, really value your time and sharing the lessons and knowledge that you've gained from being a Lancer, whether it's on the staff side or the student side. So thanks so much for making the time today. And those watching, we'll see you next week.